So I did it. I watched The Rings of Power, and it was kind of everything I thought it was going to be. Unfortunately, not that I had high hopes. I had no hope, really, because of the internet stuff and just, you know, current year and all this jazz. It was exactly what I thought it would be, but unfortunately it was even more boring than that. It gets a solid who cares out of 10, maybe. I don't know, something around a who cares and a cringe. That word cringy is overused a lot, but like I can't think of anything else for this. It was just so cringy. It was so predictable and lame and expensive. This is the thing. You can tell there's a lot of talent that worked on it, but you can see through this, or this is the thing. There's a ton of talent at the base level. However, you can tell in a production like this that there's a crust of people in certain positions of power, holding rings of power, and good work gets cock-blocked by them. You can tell. You can tell just in the set deck and the hair and makeup and stuff of, say, the Shire, or whatever they're supposed to be called. Again, it's a who cares out of 10. Whatever that's supposed to be called, the hair and makeup there and the set deck, it was so poorly conceived from a top level down that even if you throw a bunch of money at a lot of talent, the end result is going to be really mediocre. And that's the thing, mediocre reigns supreme. The Ring of Power is being held by intense mediocrity. Feel its might. You know, the bright side of all of this, whether it's on any strata you look at, entertainment or whatever, that thing that's holding the Ring of Power is just hilariously mediocre. So, not entertaining whatsoever. I got way more enjoyment out of the recent Candyman showdown. That was way more fun. Yeah, Rings of Power, not anything that I'm going to bother watching. And to be completely brutally honest, I didn't even make it through the whole thing, so you can throw away this whole review because I didn't watch the whole thing, where it, I guess, maybe turned around at the very end in the second episode. I have no idea. I just watched the first 45 minutes and I thought, ugh, life is short. I'd rather be doing anything other than watching this anymore. And that's weird. I just, as a nerd on a nerd fantasy geek level, like, I should be all over it, but I'm just not. I just can't get into it. It feels really generic. Once upon a time when I was younger, if you told me there was going to be an explosion of fantasy stuff in pop culture like this, I would have been thrilled, but you know, it's soulless. There's just nothing really there. There's no meat on the bone. There's nothing to chew on, and I guess it's for some people, but it ain't for me. And I'm thinking that if you're here, you're cool because you're here. Like and subscribe, all that other YouTube stuff, please do. Hey, I got 1 million views on my Dagon video. Or I should say our Dagon video. Mike Bennett provided a wonderful reading of Dagon, and I put some drawings on top of it, and it got 1 million views. It hit 1 million views, so how cool is that? Maybe you're here. I'm guessing you're here because of that, because that's the thing that seems to have hit. So thank you very much for subscribing to all the new people and all that jazz. So yeah, but what I'm gonna do, I'm not just gonna whine about stuff. I hate that thing where people like complain about pop culture and wah wah wah. I'm actually gonna suggest things that are alternatives for those who are Lord of the Rings fans like me. Okay, and they might seem a little bit odd, but stick with me. This is the value that you get with this channel. You're gonna get stuff you're not gonna see anywhere else. So as I'm doing this. All right, here we go. So, Ring of the Nibelungen. Wagner's ring cycle. This is a really tricky thing. It's tricky in the sense that it's hard to find a version of it. It's hard to watch it, period, because good luck finding it. But it's difficult to find a version that is not post-modernist junk, and also to find a version that is a decent quality, that's actually really, like, that's watchable, that's high enough quality, that sounds good, that looks good, everything else. It's a long haul. It's really hard to sit through 16 hours of something that is grainy and just potato resolution, right? So I would suggest this. It is by the Met, the Metropolitan Opera in New York. It's fantastic. I really like it. You might, on the surface, you might think that it's some postmodernist kind of, back to the word cringe again, but it's not. It's got great costumes, great art direction. The art direction is really interesting. The guy who does the art direction, he's obviously he's a theater guy, but comes from the school of like Cirque du Soleil, and he's created this gigantic backdrop stage thing, and it's got these moving blocks. It's hard to even describe it. It's got these moving blocks. It's really interesting, and they shift and they move around depending on the scene, and they move you through the story like that. And it works so well with the music, because if you know Wagner, he uses a lot of like leitmotifs, and so that stage in itself is a shifting motif that rolls and rumbles through the story. And he said that he was inspired by this after going to Iceland, and now that makes perfect sense. I've been to Iceland a few times, and yeah, it feels tectonic and primordial, I guess. Some might look at it and think, oh, it looks cubist, abstract, something or other. No, it's primordial, and the guy gets it. And it's really interesting. The music is fantastic. The casting is really good. It's hard to find. It's going to be a little on the pricey side. You have got, how many discs? You got 5 discs, but one of them's a making of. It's quite long, but the thing is, think about the time that you're investing in Rings of Power when you could be watching this, the OG, when you could be watching the OG thing that a lot of Lord of the Rings is based on or comes from. It's the old school Norse mythology type stuff. It's handled really, really well in this. Again, Deutsche Grammophon, Der Ring in the Nibelungen, by, who is it? Robert Lepage. And he's French-Canadian, so there you go. Somehow, once in a while, Canadians squirt something out that's actually not that bad. Very rarely. Anyway, so if you just want the music, here's one way to enjoy it. So you got Ring of the Nibelungen, you got the actual opera. If you only want the music, I would suggest this. It's Scholte's box set. It's super affordable and it's excellent. But unless you're pretty familiar with the language and everything else, because this whole thing is in German and this is subtitled, don't worry, but guess what? The music isn't, because it's for your ear holes. So you're gonna need to be pretty familiar with it, but this is an excellent recording. It sounds great. It's all mastered up to sound sweet in your ears. So yeah, very big recommend for both of those. But I draw comics, right? This is kind of a comic channel. If you did come here with the Dagon thing, you saw that there's some pictures and stuff going on, and da-da-da-da-da. So, this is where the comic comes in. Ring of the Nibelungen by P. Craig Russell. He adapted the opera into a comic, which is ridiculous and impossible and cannot be done, but you know what? He did it anyway, and it's really cool, and I really appreciate it, and I dig the totally successful attempt. It's not a failed attempt. He did it, and it's absolutely killer art. I'm a big P. Craig Russell fan. It's really old school type comic stuff. I guess by old school, I mean he doesn't fall into any conventions as far as what is hip and what is trendy and all that kind of jazz, which is good, because if you're going to make something timeless, you can't be living in current year. It's a curse. It's a trap for any creative person making any work whatsoever. If you are looking at it through the distorted, warped current year, guess what? Whatever you're making is disposable garbage, and it's going to be forgotten. And you see that all around you with all of this. Nobody's going to be talking about Rings of Power. Nobody's going to be talking about modern Marvel comics or whatever. Whatever a lot of the comics are, they're absolutely forgettable. There's no classic, memorable stuff coming out of that. All the great stories that people talk about are all from decades ago for the most part. And yeah, because that was the last time that the people in certain positions were not mediocre. But the Rings of Power are held limply by the mediocre, I guess you could say. So The Ring of the Nibelungen, look it up. It's really good. Here's the cover, so you know what it looks like. eBay. It might be tough to find. It's not going to be cheap because there's quite a few discs here, and it's a specialty thing. But I mean, it's so good, and the music in it is just absolutely. I mean, it's some of the greatest art ever made. Focus. Well, whatever. Some of the greatest art, period, ever made. It's a complete. What do you call it? Gesamtkunstwerk. I think the word is. Gesamtkunstwerk, total artwork. That's what that is. It is a total artwork. Way better than Rings of Power. So there you go. Thank you very much for coming by. Yeah, check it out. Elephants. You know what that means? That means that I spend my days drawing Hannibal, In Search of Hannibal, written by Lindy Beige. So I'm on that. I wrapped up a massive project while I was waiting for him to finish the script. Now that I got the script, I'm drawing Hannibal, which is awesome. It is so cool getting back to that world, and man, it's intense. All right, so thanks for coming by. Like, subscribe. I almost fell off my chair. Like, subscribe, all that other jazz. Thank you very much. Have a good one. Don't consume garbage because life is short. Rots your brain. Gives you brain worms. See ya.